house threats are indeed not beneficial to aging, but pets are indeed a source of stress.
They are.
And I learned that when pets fight, it releases dopamine. So that's why they keep fighting. Oh. And Charlie has little dog syndrome.
What?
She's fighting the German Shepherd. It's really bad.
How big is Willow?
Willow's a big German Shepherd.
Ladies, we're live.
Oh,
Hello.
Oh, hi.
All right. Are we starting? Okay. Are you ready?
I can't remember how we start.
Hello, my name is Amy Natt. I'm the CEO of Aging Outreach Services, and this is All Things Aging.
And I'm Amy Obst, editor of Outreach NC, which is our monthly publication. And today we're talking about aging with purpose.
Yes.
So this is an issue that comes up across the board at all ages.
Yeah, it does, definitely. And sometimes we can see it more as a person ages, but we all struggle with that, I think, throughout life.
And I think that in the earlier stages of life, there's sort of external purpose, having kids, work, etc. And then as we retire and age, that changes and shifts.
Right. A lot of times we see people start to struggle with purpose, right? Purpose in everyday life when they lose a routine. So it could be that that person has recently retired and their sense of purpose was tied to their job, right? They would get up every day. They had something to get ready for, someplace to go. They interacted with people. They felt like they were contributing. And then when they retire, suddenly they're wondering what they're going to do every day.
Right.
The same can be seen of people that become empty nesters. If their sense of purpose was tied to getting up each day and doing things for the kids, and then suddenly the kids are gone, it can lead to a struggle with what is my purpose now?
And what's the importance of having that purpose as we age?
Well, a lot of times our sense of purpose is tied to our sense of identity. And so there's a lot of research that shows that having that sense of purpose can lead to a longer, happier life. So it is a very important thing. And something we should pay attention to as we start to see people who are starting to isolate themselves or maybe experience changes and don't seem to really have the connections to the world that they did earlier in life.
So outside of those external things like, retiring or empty nest syndrome, I guess it's not really a syndrome, just a reality.
It's a reality.
What are some of like the internal things that might impact purpose?
So sometimes it's just societal viewpoints on people as they're aging, right? Sometimes there's a stereotype or something that is assigned to people as they get older not being as useful. And that can cause a person to have self-reflection, that they start to wonder, well, how am I contributing to society? What is my sense of purpose? If there's changes in somebody's mobility or ability to get out and interact, that can cause a person to sort of start to stay at home more. It can cause them to have fewer connections out in the community, and that can lead to a struggle with purpose as well.
So this isn't just something that you can change with one little adjustment in life. You have to think about the deeper.
There are some ways which we'll talk about, but I think understanding how people come to struggle with purpose is important. And so it definitely is impacted by a person's, physical health, mental health, the stage they're at in life. And once you recognize that's maybe what part of the problem is, at least, then it's much easier to address it and try to do things that will enhance life for a person.
I think sometimes we overemphasize how much fun retirement or empty nest is going to be. Like, well, you can do whatever you want and you can hang out and you don't have to be anywhere. What are some of the benefits of cultivating that purpose?
A lot of times they'll say that purpose promotes happiness, right? If a person feels a sense of purpose, then that person just generally tends to be happier. It can also create healthy habits. If you think about maybe getting up and walking your dog, Amy has a new dog, Blanche. Maybe if getting up every day and walking your dog is part of your purpose, you've established a routine of getting out of bed, getting outdoors, getting some exercise. And so a lot of times having that sense of purpose can give us that sense of routine. It may also lead to relationships, right? You're out walking your dog and what happens? People want to talk to you, right? People want to talk to you. They want to interact with your new dog. And so it can give you connections to other people. And so having that sense of purpose is giving you that reason to get up. It's stimulating you mentally. It's giving you physical exercise. They found that people tend to have better sleep, right? When they have a sense of purpose, because instead of just getting up and wondering, what am I going to do all day? You've had something that's fulfilling to you. And so those people tend to have better sleep, better mental health, less stress. If you think about the impact of stress on your health, it can be detrimental. So having less stress is certainly something that's promoting a healthier, longer, happier life.
So it sounds like purpose is directly linked to motivation.
Definitely, to some degree. If it's a motivation for you to interact with the world around you, in whatever capacity, it can be a small way, or it can be, something like a second career, but it could be something as small as having a plant that you take care of every day as well. And so it can be large or small things, but it gives you, that sense of accomplishing something.
What are some examples of ways we can help people explore this, develop that sense of purpose and meaning if they are going through that period of adjustment?
Yeah, definitely. So I actually went through and made a list, because this is something that I deal with a lot with clients. And it really depends on where that person is, right? If I'm looking at, my parent and they've just retired, it may be something like encouraging them to pick up a new hobby, or encouraging them to maybe look at a second career. If that person is still mobile and active, it might be suggesting some volunteer opportunities, or inviting them to come volunteer with you, or inviting them to come to the school and volunteer with the grandkids. It can be things like that, where you're getting them back out. It could be reconnecting with old passions. Maybe earlier in life, before work and kids, you love to paint and doodle, and that's something that you haven't done in years. So that would be something that you could help somebody reconnect to. It could be finding a way to feel that you're contributing to the world around you. So maybe that's as simple as checking on your neighbor, right? Maybe it's as simple as, taking cookies across the street to somebody that you haven't had a chance to connect with because you were both busy in life. It could be celebrating little accomplishments during the day. Maybe something you've wanted to do is start cooking more, right? So maybe that's the accomplishment. We talked about pets. We did the episode on robo-pets before. So if a real pet is out of the question, there's other options. Or it could be a fish.
Yeah.
It could be the plants, like we talked about. When I used to work in nursing facilities and assisted livings, one of the things that we really tried hard to do is help each resident have a sense of purpose. And so that could be helping with an activity. It could be helping to set up the dining room before a meal, or it could be something as simple as having a community garden that person helped with. So those are examples of things on much smaller scales, but that person feels like they're contributing to the world around them. One of the other ones that I'll mention is helping someone to provide a sense of legacy.
Right.
We see now that there are journals, there are podcasts, there are ways of interviewing people and documenting the wealth of information that they have throughout their life, and documenting that so they feel like that wisdom is getting passed along to the next generation. So there's a multitude of ways to help a person sort of reconnect or find a new sense of purpose if something has shifted in their life and they're struggling to find that.
So one of the things we talk a lot about is longevity. And not just aging, but aging well, and
making the most of it.
How does purpose contribute to that?
So think of purpose as a life-giving force, right? When a person feels that sense of purpose, it shifts their entire mindset. And so it really is, they're looking forward to the next day. One of the things they found is that people who keep calendars, right? Whether it's on your computer or on your phone, whether it's a good old paper calendar, a whiteboard in your kitchen, but people that know that there's things in the coming days to look forward to, it gives them that sense of purpose. It could be a family event coming up. It could be the day that they volunteer at the hospital. There's lots of things, but if that person knows that there's purpose and they're connected with that, then they tend to live kind of longer, happier lives with less stress and greater feelings of accomplishment.
So what would you say to somebody who is coming to you and they're feeling just a little bit blah, a little down, nothing to look forward to? Where would you start?
I would start with talking to that person about what they enjoy. What's the last thing that made you smile? What's the last thing that gave you joy in your life or made you feel a sense of purpose? And normally it may take that person a little bit. I mean, we can ask ourselves that, right? If you really think of that last thing that gave you joy and made you feel connected, that's what you build on.
Sometimes that
Easy
might
as
take a
that.
while to think, but I mean, I can already
Yes.
start thinking. Like,
Yes.
all right.
Yes. One of the things that I learned in grad school, you go back to theories, right, on aging, and Eric Erickson was one, and he talked a lot about, once people hit 65, they really struggle with integrity versus despair. And so one of the things that he really talked about is in that sort of second 50, right? We're 65, retirement age or whatnot, but in sort of that second phase of life is finding that sense of purpose because it helps you feel that sense of integrity and generativity, and you're obtaining meaning in your life. And I think it's really important for people, even if they have physical challenges, health challenges, even if they're at the end of life, to still feel like they've led a good life, and they've left that legacy, right? The next generation. So giving them that is really fulfilling their sense of purpose.
Well, and I just saw a TikTok the other day about this new trend where young people are really wanting to pick up the hobbies of the generations before, knitting and
We're going to bring
crocheting.
bridge back.
Yes, yes. And so I think that I think all the time, well, where would I learn how to do that? And we have this wealth of knowledge and people who can teach.
Yeah, definitely. Looking at past generations for those ideas to connect is good. Getting away from our phones and our computers and finding real connections in the world can really be beneficial at any age, but especially as you age. So,
Well, thank you as always. I
Yes.
learned a lot.
all right. Thank you.